Hi, this is Josh Adams with Unueco Partio. I'm here in Johnson City, actually on the top of a parking garage at Eastern Tennessee State University, in front of the athletics dome where they do sports science. It's spring break, but it looks like that the university is going to be empty for a few weeks due to the COVID-19 outbreak. And with that, you know, this is this is a new virus, pandemic, potential epidemic, and I hope that you know that we're all able to do the right thing and the impacts are small. This virus is showing the just how closely related we are. We have a global economy, a global society. I mean, something will come from China, whether it's like news, and it's shared, almost instantaneously. The effect of one place has effect on the other. Doesn't matter if you're from Asia, from the Americas, from Europe, from Africa, um, wherever you are, everything has a ripple effect. And I hope that as we go about navigating our lives in the face of this once in a generation event, that we're not only looking out for ourselves, such as going to the stores and buying as much food and stuff before other people get that food and stuff. But we not only look for ourselves, but we also look out for our neighbor. Whether you consider your neighbor to be the person next door, or person down the block, or someone in a neighboring neighborhood, or in a neighboring town, or in a neighboring state, or a neighboring country. With the advent of globalization, social media, we are all neighbors, and we all share one common humanity. Mankind is one. We're all part of one major family. And my vision for Unueco Partio is to acknowledge all these different layers of how we are one. I kind of often envisioned it as just peeling away the layers of an onion. Each layer is part of the whole. No matter how deep you look at it, the onion is still an onion. It has the same flavor, same consistency, same potency, and that is how it is in the world. You know, the virus may have came from China, from Wuhan, but it affects each person the same. Doesn't matter actually where it came from. Um, the capabilities and potencies of the Chinese are just the same as the Americans, and they're just the same as those from Kenya or from Peru. Uh, it really doesn't actually matter where you're from, because we're all in this together. So I really wanted to put forth that strong reminder. Now, kind of in jest, to kind of be insensitive and make fun of something that you're not really supposed to. If we all practice social distancing and proper hygiene, mankind would be barely affected by any kind of disease. People would not get the flu, they would not get the cold, they would not get hepatitis, they wouldn't get chicken pox, measles, mumps, smallpox. The amount of diseases that exist because of bad hygiene and socialization are actually quite high. The only other way to really get diseases outside of hygiene and socialization is mosquitoes. I'm sure I'm being narrow on that, but Mosquitoes seem to be the only threat outside of our own actions. Um, but now that I'm done with joking about this, I do want to say that how quickly uh, our ability to be social, how quickly that has changed, um, strongly concerns me. Um, I'm actually more of an introvert than anything. I like people, but uh, not lots of people at once. Um, but uh, but being up on this parking lot alone, no one's gonna check up on me. No one's gonna park here. Uh, it makes me realize just how much I take for granted the interconnectedness of us. That I can go out with a friend anywhere I want, and maybe now I cannot. Uh, I could go to a store that I want, get whatever I want or need, and my ability to do so is greatly limited. Um, and our our governments and our businesses, I mean, they're doing the responsible thing. I have no argument against this, but I think we should be aware of just how quickly our leaders in in government and business or in nonprofits like our churches and stuff, how quickly they chose to exert their power to isolate us. And I don't know about you, but when I'm feeling more alone, without being able to intermingle with friends, family, and strangers, I feel weaker. I feel like I have less power. And I don't know if that's something you share or you have felt, but that deeply concerns me. I know part of the Unueco Partio vision is to develop a new way of doing things. And honestly, I'm at a loss as to, just with my own small and feeble mind, how I would do things differently. I'm on the fence of just letting everyone get sick and build up our antibodies and let nature take its course. We'll be stronger for it. But it's not very compassionate. Doesn't really express much empathy to those who will be sick or who may die or who will lose a loved one. Um, and those are things that we must all consider. If we go too far in any one direction, we'll be weaker because of it. Sometimes we think that going to an extreme makes us stronger, but it does not. It never has. That's why all the religious leaders of the world who have been persecuted for thinking differently, the one thing that they've all taught is moderation in all things. To be detached from the impulses of the material world, or at least not to be attached to things that you just frankly cannot control. As a faith-based person, I strongly believe that God created all things, and all things have this innate will to survive and to live on. And I don't blame COVID-19 or the H1N1 flu that's going around that has killed up to 22,000 people in the United States this year alone. I don't blame those viruses for having the same will that I do. Um, it makes me actually want to respect all this. You know, to respect the mosquitoes, the lions, the wolves, the cows I eat, the plants, the beans. the herbs and spices and the fruits, even spiders. All these living things, we co-evolve with each other. We we each grow stronger because of each other. If it wasn't for viruses or things that in our early days wanted to eat us or steal our food, we wouldn't have gotten to where we are today. And if we go too far in the direction that we are removed from nature, that we are not a part of nature, being removed from nature is going to be the end of us. That is why with Unueco Partio I talk about sustainable development, such as ideas of reserving in every location a certain amount of land, hopefully a third of land, but a certain amount of land, just so nature can do its thing. And we use our education to ensure that when there is a pandemic, the livelihoods of the poor or the lower middle class aren't impacted to where we cause even greater harm. I don't want the poor to starve or become homeless because we shut down their ways of making a living because we're scared of each other. I don't want, I want our education systems to be able to produce a great amount of doctors and scientists, not just people who want to take advantage of nature. Another form of moderation I think of when I think of this pandemic is actually how governments do respond. I mean, a lot of people view that governments come in just a few flavors, say democratic and non-democratic. But actually, I like to view governments in a different way, towards the strong central government to the weak central government. How authoritarian is the government? How much power do they exert? And we see in this pandemic that it actually takes a very strong government response to lessen the impacts of a pandemic. But a strong government, in order to do that, must use the tools of restricting freedom, restrict our movements. Our goods have more rights than people. And if we go too strongly down that direction, whether that government is a single party government like China or a democratic one, a loosely democratic one like in Iran, the future impacts outside of pandemics could be great. Because governments who do want to exert control over us are now better practiced in doing so. But then again, we see with governments that have weak central governments, such as maybe, say, Italy, who have greatly struggled in providing for the welfare of their people. And this brings me to the fact that, I don't actually necessarily think that there's any one particular type of government that's better than the other. I grew up in America, and freedom is hugely important. It's a huge part of our culture. But freedom comes in many shapes and forms. You can see a hijacked video of the countryside in North Korea and see that people in rural North Korea are pretty much just as happy as people in rural Illinois. Most people just want to have family, provide for that family, and have some leisure time and do what they want with that leisure time. And there's really no government that really interferes with that. But But what I'm trying to say is if we educate ourselves in such a way, no matter what type of government we have, we will place leaders in charge that reflect our values. We will not allow governments that do not reflect our values to be in charge. And we will trust them with great power. We will trust them to provide for our welfare. And one hope that I do have that through this pandemic, that perhaps maybe we can find ways to discover our collective unity, our collective compassion for each other, our collective trust for each other, and to develop institutions that are built on this trust. I strongly believe that we should move towards establishing a single world federation. I think it would really help in cases like this. But I also think it would help in cases with economy, such as with trade wars and such. So I want you to consider what this pandemic would look like in a single world government, single world federation, with this mixed tapestry of cultures and views of doing things, but with the ability to reflect the values that you and I hold dear, that will help ensure that when things end or stop, when the motion slows down, the poor among us will be taken care of. That will learn how to just better interact with each other and practice good hygiene all the time, even when there's not a pandemic. I get annoyed by people who use the bathroom and don't wash their hands, which is like 80% of all people. Anyway, we have a lot of work to do to develop a sustainable future, and I really hope that if you listen to this, think about what I said, ask questions, get a hold of me privately or contribute on unuecopartio.org or on the YouTube channel. You are important. Y'all are much more important than I am. I'm just a single introvert with ideas, but Unueco Partio can be an amazing, world-changing organization if you just be a part of it. Right? If you saw any type of injustice or things that you're like, man, I could have done this better, or this could have been done better, speak out. Be proactive. Don't be shy. We need you. We need each other. I'd like to say goodbye, and I wish you the best in health. My prayers may not be towards any individual of you, since I may not know you, but it will be out to mankind, and we need all the help we can get.